during the, I guess it was about 1983, the Reagan administration was getting ready to run again in 84, and they were shoring up their evangelical base.
Yep.
And one of the things that they decided to do is send the Secretary of Education down to Bob Jones University. Up until then, Bob Jones had been ignored by the Reagan administration.
And so you were working as the non-political speechwriter for Bell at this point.
I was a non-political speechwriter.
Whatever. What did that actually mean? In other words,
that meant that I wasn't a Schedule C. I wasn't a Republican appointee.
Okay, I got it.
Specific Republican RNC speeches.
Yeah, so
there was another person, a gal named Janet Lee Johnson. She handled all the routine Republican speeches.
And you got into this position more or less accidentally because you have your friend Logan Salada.
Yeah, Logan Saladay.
Saladay, okay, excuse me.
A Sephitic Jew, and an ex-Brethren minister, Harry Gardner, and they vouched for me with the new Reagan team.
And no one in the Reagan administration knew that you were actually a Democrat.
No, because I had registered independent in Prince George's County.
Yeah. Okay. So they just didn't know.
They checked on it, of course, and found that I was a registered independent, and therefore they didn't.
Is this yours?
Yes.
You want it?
Honey, no. Just put it on where I sit. Just put it where I sit.
So the dogs are a great touch. They're especially when they yawn. It's quite funny. But so yeah, you're the non-political speechwriter.
So I'm the non-political speechwriter, and of course I had been a speechwriter in the Navy for the Secretary of Navy at one time, and also for C.N.O. Burke. So I was an old speechwriter. I even wrote speeches for Hubert Humphrey.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
During the 1960s.
So you had the pedigree for the job.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Even though I was really a typical bureaucratic report writer and all that kind of stuff, just to survive. Anyway, the orders came from the White House, go down to Bob Jones. And they ordered Bell down there, and of course I had to do the speech. And I believe that the place where Bell was to speak from was shaped like a deck of a ship, and it reminded me of Moby Dick and pursuing Ahab pursuing the great white whale and all that business. And so I did my research, and I said, well, the best thing to not be particularly partisan was to look at American history and come up with a list called traditional American values. So I built this speech around the various traditional American values.
This is fascinating to me because this is the genesis of I mean, you look at Lou Sheldon's Traditional Values Coalition, all that stuff.
Well,
this is the genesis.
So I'd researched it, given all my courses in American history and readings in American history, and I distilled the whole American experience into a set of what I call traditional American values. Okay. Well, it was then sent up to Bell. Bell sent it over to the White House, and there was no objection. So I prepared it in the big speech writing type. And did the other adjustments that one speechwriter does to make sure that no confusing 2 or 3 syllable words are mispronounced. And we then sent it to the public affairs officer, who was a plant from the Christian right, and put in there to keep Bell, the Mormon, to keep him doctrinally sound.
Yeah.
And of course, I kept him doctory sound by reading the Washington Times every morning
Yeah.
and reading the White House guidance, so that
Yeah.
Bell wasn't going to get in any trouble from his speeches,
Yeah.
from the ones that I wrote, because they were after him. Ed Meese and the whole gang hated
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
as did Shapley and the gang. Falwell, Roberts, and the whole
Yeah.
gang didn't like him because he was not going to destroy American education, which is what they wanted him to do, and set up a religious alternative to the public schools.
And they're still trying to do it. As a matter of fact, there was a Supreme Court decision which just legitimated the state funding of sectarian education in Ohio.
I know,
Yeah.
and they're fooling around with it in Florida too. It's
Yeah.
a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. And public schools and the high schools and the community colleges are great American, and the land grants are great American contributions to education, and they shouldn't be fooled with by theocons and people who have a hidden agenda. Anyway.